Iglesia ni Cristo.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our viewers and listeners of INCRadio. I am Sister Lorraine Lawinco Manabat from the local congregation of Fayetteville, North Carolina, welcoming you here on INCRadio Virginia Satellite Studio. Hello to all our viewers in the Philippines. Magandang umaga, maya paabak in Kapampangan. And did you know that gardening is the practice of growing and cultivating plants for food, beauty, or recreation? It is important because it enhances mental well-being, supports environmental health, and provides fresh produce. Joining me today, Brother Andrew, my dear co-host, we are gonna talk about gardening part 2 with our guest, Sister Helen. Brother Andrew, did you eat ampalaya this week?
Sister Lorraine, I eat ampalaya every week. I can't get enough ampalaya. You can have ampalaya with eggs, you can have ampalaya on top of mango beans, and you can eat ampalaya raw by itself or in a salad for a tasty surprise.
I like the way how you say it, Brother Andrew. You're the only one who can make ampalaya very sweet because you said it ampalaya. All right. I think Brother Johnny Ferrer really likes it too. Everybody, welcome to our show for today. Our topic is the art of gardening part 2. And a while ago, I already mentioned the name of our dear guest. She's coming back to join us for today's episode. And I cannot wait to show you and introduce to you our very, very active, very, very kind, and very close to my heart. She's an active finance officer in the local congregation of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, Sister Helen de los Santos.
Hello, Sister Lorraine, Brother Andrew, and everybody.
It's nice to see you again, Sister Helen. And I know our dear viewers and listeners really waited for this second part of discussion of gardening. And also, we would like to say to all our viewers and listeners who are listening and watching right now in YouTube, please do not forget to post your comments, your questions also. That is very important because Sister Helen will have the time to answer all of your queries, questions, everything about gardening, everything about fruits, vegetables, everything about gardening. Sister Helen will answer that. And if you're asking if you wanted some plants to your yard, we could also ask that to Sister Helen later. You might be surprised. Outside of your house, she will give you whatever you need. All right, Sister Helen, because she's very kind. She gave me malunggay, and it's growing there in our yard. And I have something to put in my tinola. It's a dish in the Philippines. So, again, do not forget also our hashtag challenge. Please don't forget to put your hashtag and the local congregation. And I think Sister Helen, all the viewers and listeners a while ago before the show starts, they're already commenting their questions. We are going to answer that later on. So, without further ado, Brother Andrew, what are the things that we had last week? If we could have a recap, what are the things you remember with Sister Helen's discussion with our Art of Gardening Part 1?
Well, first of all, we love deer, but we don't love deer when they eat our plants. So how do we keep deer and rabbits and other things away from our plants? One is called caging. Maybe you take a wire cage or something similar and you put it over the plants when we're not standing next to them so that the plants continue to grow without being part of the deer's meal.
That is very true. And also, what I've learned and remember from our part 1 is how Sister Helen discovered and started this talent of planting, where she said that she's trying to prove that she has a green thumb to her dad, and she was rescuing the plants before, and all of a sudden she just continued on planting, growing plants, and until now we are so honored to have Sister Helen to share her knowledge and skills and what are the challenges and solutions that she has experienced.
I was curious. I wanted to know, Sister Helen, if we were going to start a garden, what are the basic requirements to start a garden so we can be successful at it?
Well, brother, of course, a lot of plants likes to grow in soil. So if you have soil, either in your yard or if you don't have a yard, you can have in a container. Any type of container will do. Some plants like just water and you don't need soil at all. And you can put it in a container too. Or if you have like a pond that you can have water plants to grow in there, that's fantastic. But you would need those. And of course, we need uh, light. So if you have sunlight growing at your plant, we would need that. Some plants need enough light. Some plants don't want too much light. So you have your shaded plants and your exposed to the sun for almost 12 hours a day kind of plant. So you would need soil, sunlight, and of course, you need some water and some nutrients like fertilizer for the plant to continue flourishing, brother.
Thank you for that great briefing. I can't wait to go out and garden again. This sounds very exciting. Sister Lorraine, what about environments? What would you like to ask Sister Helen?
Yes, in line with that, Brother Andrew and Sister Helen, I believe we have some photos to be shown regarding the basic requirements for starting a garden. Kuyete, can you show please the first photo and the second photo as Sister Helen describe us what did she plant on this photo? And there you go, Sister Helen.
Okay, this is my persimmon tree. There's many types of persimmon, and this is the Hayacha persimmon. It likes a lot of sunlight, and because it's a cold weather plant, it likes it to have some of that temperature. It doesn't do well in a desert environment because it likes cold weather. So it grows well here in North Carolina, but in other places like Arizona and Florida, there's a certain type of persimmon that will take some of those sunlight, but it can't grow there too well.
Well, from the screen, it looks like the mango from the Philippines, and also like Sister Helen. I wonder who took the picture, but you're so smiley here. Like you're so happy that there's a fruit already.
Yes, every time there's fruit on the trees, I'm excited because I get something to eat in the future.
Yes, and with what Brother Andrew said with the environment, like you have mentioned, there are plants that are really, will grow fruitfully in such places. And we know our houses we're not like in the Philippines where we have a very good soil. So how do you plant those fruits, vegetables, or flowers that are are not good in that environment, in that place of where do you live? So how do you manage those, Sister Helen? What are the things you do, like if you have indoor plants, outdoor plants?
Well, for example, if you're going to look at your soil, if your soil is clay, you need to amend it. So, because clay holds water and certain plants don't like to sit in water. So, if you're planting, for example, uh, green onions, it loves water, it can survive in that kind of soil. But if you were going to plant something like a cactus, it's it's gonna sit on that water and it's gonna rot. So you don't want to have that kind of soil for cactus. You want some soil that kind of drains, like sand. That's a good place to plant cactus. So depending on what kind of plants you're planting, you're going to always look at your soil. If it's a clay, sandy, or moist, or very dry kind of soil, those are the things that you have to look at. The light, if it's going to be in the shade area or partial shade or a lot of exposure to sunlight. If you're going to plant in the house, do you have a plant that loves the darkness? That's a good place to put that plant in the bathroom because there's no windows in the bathroom. But if there's a plant that loves some sun, you need to put it in like a window area so at least they have some sun. If you don't have no sun or any light, we have those fake, or I won't say fake light, but those light grow lights that we can have. Like if you were going to grow something in the basement, there's no light whatsoever. A grow light would be good to use, Sister Lorraine. And also, if you were going to have a certain plant, know what kind of plant will survive in that kind of environment. If it likes cold, if it likes heat, it can tolerate heat or it can tolerate cold. Those are the things you need to look at before you start planting because you invest on a say a huge amount of money on that plant and it's not going to work. If you're in the Philippines and you plant in the rooftop, your container has to have good soil in it. It has to have good drainage so your plant will flourish. Otherwise, you're just planting and then get so disappointed because it didn't grow well for you and you didn't get to harvest anything. And then you just, I don't want to do gardening anymore because I can't grow anything. Well, that's the wrong way to look at it.
Sister Helen, I was curious. Let's say you have a failure. Let's say a person tried to plant a banana in a place called like Montana and with a very cold winter and it would fail. What could they take away from that planting the banana in Montana and what did they do wrong?
Well, if they want to plant bananas in Montana where the weather gets cold at a certain time of the year, see, banana will thrive in almost any place. It even grows here in North Carolina when it's cold. But the thing is, the root system is what you're protecting during winter. If that dies, you won't have a new growth the next following springtime. But if it that root is protected, you'll be okay. But if it dies, then you will have no banana. Some people would plant bananas in a greenhouse, so they have that right temperature all year round, especially in a place like Montana where it gets cold. Or you can, some people put mulch over it to give it that heat on the ground. It's not gonna evaporate. It's gonna stay in the ground, so it will protect that banana. I've seen people wrapped it with tarp, and uh, it does well sometimes, depending on how low the freezing point is, how many days it goes surviving that freezing point. So it's a big challenge to grow banana in Montana. But here in North Carolina, we can grow bananas, but I have not seen it fruit because our growing season is not long enough. Because bananas like warm weather. So you see bananas in the Philippines, down south of the equator. They do so well because it's or in the equator area because it's has that heat all the time.
Thank you very much. Sister Lorraine, are there
I
challenges?
love all the information and I'm taking down notes of all the tips that Sister Helen is saying. But there's one comment here. I have a question. Um, Brother Andrew, Sister Helen, what why didn't anyone laugh at the gardener's jokes? Why?
What
Do
were
you
the
know?
jokes?
You have any idea? Because they were too corny.
Oh.
All right. That's
Yeah.
coming from Sister EAC. I love your joke, sister. All right. So, all right. Before we continue with the discussion, I believe there are some of the videos that Sister Helen prepared for us to also be informed. What are the things she used to make her gardening effective and you see her smile on the first photo. What are the things she's doing in her garden? Kuya Tek, can you please show some of the videos of Sister Helen? Thank you.
Okay, this video there, I had pulled some of the weeds and some plants that were not doing good. I put it in the bucket or a container of any kind and put water. And I get that plant fermented for 3 to 4 months. And you get that water to use for organic fertilizing.
Wow. Very environmental. Think you're also like, the food waste that we have in our kitchen, you're recycling it and making it use to your plants.
Yes. This one is my worm bin that I get casting and this liquid that called worm wee. I put my kitchen waste like banana peels or cucumber peels in there to feed the worms. And they give me worm casting to put in the garden and the worm wee that I can dilute in water and water the plants. And they grow flourishly with big fruits and the leaves get so big and tender.
Wow, Sister Helen, did you make that container, or like we could buy that from some stores for gardening tools? Or
I actually did not buy that, sister. Someone has put it on the side of the road. So that's a good thing about gardening. Whatever somebody throws away is our treasure. Somebody else's junk is our treasure. They put that in the street to be picked up by the trash man. I took it and decided to make a worm container where I can
Mhm.
do my worm casting and my worm wee collection. I put soil in there and then I dug up some worms that I see in my garden, put them in there just to start my worm bin collection and feed them from scraps from the kitchen.
That's a
Or
nice collection, Sister Helen. As a gardener, like that's their collection, that's their treasure. This is important for them to grow their plants. So if you have kitchen waste, please think twice before throwing it in the trash. It will help to have a healthy soil. As I remember, one of the stories I told my kids about planting, there's a person who think of a lot of ways, and I didn't really realize that worms, I know I'm not good at science, but I didn't really realize the worms really help with the soil, and he just collected a lot of worms.
yes.
We have a joke in our chat from Kapatid EAC in Raleigh. Which vegetable loves animals the most?
Oh, I don't know. I'm
A,
polite.
a zucchini.
Oh, zucchini. I like that, Sister EAC.
Keep it coming.
Now, I was wondering, what skills have you acquired, Sister Helen, and others who have gardened?
Well, brother, when I started, it's because I watched my dad. Whatever he did, I try to use it as I start gardening, as I grow up. The skills that I had acquired is learning to look at the weather. If it rains, we don't need to water the plants and save money on our utility. If it's sunny, great. That means, it's time to plant. If it's cold, don't plant yet. Or plant something that is tolerates cold. And looking at the weather, I also learn on what helps us in our health, what kind of plants is beneficial for us. So how to grow that plant. If it needs a trellis, so it grows more and it doesn't take up space. in our garden. So if we have a small garden or a small space to garden, we can use trellises to, for example, pumpkin. You can use a trellis to have it climb up instead of sprawling all over the lawn or the garden area and you lose space. You can use that for planting too. And other materials that I use, I like to use whatever is available for me instead of going out to buy and spending money. So like that worm bin, I saw it, someone threw it away, and I was like, I can use this for something, and I made a worm bin out of it. And I don't know why they throw it away, but things like that are very useful. And also, I also acquired on learning what plants are good in our area. If our area, for example, North Carolina is zone 8 or 7.5, depending where you are in North Carolina, if you're in the mountains or down here, what zone you are, then what plant thrive in that area. And those are like my skills by just looking at where we are, our environment.
Wow, that's a great one, Sister Helen. When you're starting to plant and gardening, you're having this awareness of the environment. Also, you're not just being focused on one thing, but also considering the weather, the place where you are, and you're also making this earth green and eating healthy. As what Brother Jeremy said, if you can grow your food, then you can feed yourself and us. That's what he said here in our live chat hashtag rally. And I believe Kuya Tech will show us different ways on how Sister Helen makes sure that her plants were really healthy. There are videos about fertilizer, like DIY. I think I also saw a while ago, like the smoke um, you use in your yard. Kuya Tech, can you please? Oh, there you go. Oh,
This one is the video of my composting bin. Uh, good friend of mine gifted to me for Mother's Day. And the next one is one of those bins that somebody threw away again. I
what?
picked it up, drilled holes on the bottom of it, and I do composting in that black composter. And the eggshells I put in that container because I don't want it to be in that area. So any food waste from the kitchen, again, I put in that composter and just spin it now and then so it doesn't clump up. And then once it's turned brown, I take that compost and spread it around the base of the plants and or use it as starting a seedling. And the plants really love that one.
I love how Sister Helen really is so resourceful. Is there more videos, Kuya Tech? There are a lot of questions right now, Sister Helen, but go ahead.
Okay, this one is me making potash. So if you have wood, uh, you could make a potash. Here I put green leaves that I collect in the garden, and it creates a lot of smoke. Smoke is also a good way to deter pests or insects because us as human beings, we don't like smoke, so we leave the area. Same thing as the insects. They don't like the smoke, so they fly away. They don't stay in our garden. So if you smoke your garden maybe once or twice a week, you kind of eliminates your pest there too. And then once the wood is burned off, you have an ash. It's called potash, and that's a good uh, nutrients for the plants. So nothing goes to waste.
All right. Thank you so much, Sister Helen. There's one question here also in YouTube live chat. What are the right plants for unshaded environment?
Are you talking about flowers or vegetables? If it's flowers, you want to do those succulent plants like impatiens. They like shaded ones. You talking about some vegetables or some spices? Ginger loves shaded area. They don't like too much sunlight. They don't thrive too well. So if you plant that in a shaded area, the ginger grows, the root of the ginger grows a lot more, and then the leaves are really grow really tall. So you know that it's taking up a lot of sunlight for the roots to grow bigger. So that's one. And then there's certain plants like some vegetables, I think radish and some spinach. You want to put that almost in a kind of shaded area, not too much sunlight, only because the sun, uh, it's too hot for their leaves, so they don't thrive too well, sister.
Sister Helen, I love your answers, but we may need to have a part three because we're running up
Oh
against the
yeah, see you
clock.
next episode.
Okay.
All right. There's also one our brethren here said from Sister Michelle. Hashtag Huntsville. Hi everyone. For gardening, always have a plan the location, how big or how small your garden will be, and what local plants are you able to plant in your area. And that's very true what Sister Helen said. Like first, like know your location, what type of soil do you have at home, and if you don't, then there are tips that Sister Helen already mentioned on our first part and also today's episode. And the time is already up, Sister Helen. I think we have part three where you are going to teach us how to cook ampalaya with Brother Andrew. All right. We would like to say thank you so much, Sister Helen, for the 2 episodes that you are already here. And we are learning a lot. And all the tips, all the things you have suggested, everything were so worth it. And I think Brother Andrew is so inspired to plant ampalaya because I saw a lot of our brothers and sisters comment. Let's start planting ampalaya already. All right. So thank you so much again, Sister Helen.
No.
And brothers and sisters, we are so excited with our CFO in action.
CFO in action.
CFO in action.
Now, we should see some pictures of poster making. There was poster making in Charlotte, in High Point, and Raleigh, and in different local congregations throughout the district. Children having so much fun using magic markers, using colored crayons, and just expressing themselves with art, smiling and enjoying themselves, and being very creative and so proud of the works they made. So we are so thankful for our children's worship service for coming up with all these fun-filled, joyous activities for our children. And you can see more children having fun, working, coloring between the lines as best they can, expressing with all sorts of different colors, having fun, showing family fun through poster making, with smiles abounding and everybody being happy and showing off their work to the proud parents and other brothers and sisters who are watching and smiling, enjoying what the children do inside the Church of Christ. Now, we also today had the premiere showing of the movie Haligi, and as an upcoming activity, we're going to have our Songs of Salvation, and other congregations will have other upcoming activities.
Thank you so much, Brother Andrew. And I think everybody's so excited with our hashtag challenge winners. Here are the winners of our hashtag challenge last August 24, 2024. Fifth place, South Atlanta, Georgia. Fourth place, High Point, North Carolina. Third place, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Second place, Charlotte, North Carolina. This is so proud right now. And first place, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Woo-hoo!
Congratulations to all the winners. Again, do not forget on our next episode to join us And also, don't forget your comment in our live chat and your hashtag local congregation. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will never ever forget to say thank you to our beloved brother Eduardo V. Manalo, our executive minister, brother Angelo Eranio Manalo, our CFO coordinator, SEFC CEO, and president. Thank you so much. And see you all again next week here on INC Radio Virginia Satellite Studio. Thank you, Sister Helen. Hi, Sister Lucy and Brother Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Sister Lorraine.
This is INC Radio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ.